Stetson Bennett had a better performance in his second preseason game, but was it enough? We got a Matthew Stafford injury update. Will he practice this week? And the Rams have found more hidden gems in the draft that could have an impact this season. That's coming up next on Locked On Rams.
You are Locked On Rams, your daily Los Angeles Rams podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, Ramley, and welcome to another episode of Locked On Rams, your daily podcast covering your Los Angeles Rams. Free and available wherever you get your podcasts. Locked On Rams, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We're also available over on YouTube, so if you haven't yet, do us a huge favor, join the party, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, hit the like button. Also, give us your biggest takeaway from the Rams' preseason win over the Chargers. My name is Doug McCain. Friends call me DMAC. You can follow me on X and Instagram at DMAC_LA. I've been covering LA sports for over a decade. Bleacher Report, Dodgers Nation, 24/7 Sports, SI, the Rams 4 Locked On. And as always, I'm joined by the Rams pre-half and post-game show host for the Rams flagship radio station, ESPN 710. He just began his 9th season covering your Los Angeles Rams, the people's champ, Mr. Travis Rogers. You can follow him on X at Travis Rogers. And on today's episode, we are breaking down the Rams' second preseason game. How did Stetson Bennett fare? Did he get a lot better? Still some issues there. Is he ready to be the Rams' backup for the first 2 weeks of the season? Other big takeaways for the Rams' preseason win. We got an update on Matthew Stafford. Will he practice this week? But first, this episode of Locked On Rams is brought to you by FanDuel. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn to get started. All right, Travis, so we are LaMarcus Joyner, Jalen Ramsey before the number switch, Eric Weddle days before opening kickoff against the Lions on Sunday Night Football. And, hey, guess what? The Rams are 2-0 for the first time in the preseason since 2019. When's the parade?
Right.
But we have to start with Stetson Bennett. He has been the big storyline for the first couple of weeks of the preseason because with Jimmy Garoppolo set to miss the first 2 games of the season with suspension, Stetson Bennett right now would be the Rams' backup quarterback. And he goes 17 for 31, 213 yards, a touchdown, an interception, a fumble. Did have the big 47-yard bomb to J.J. Lopp that was the game winner. Did see some improvements. The reads are a little better, but at times some of the decision-making, the fumble in the backfield, an interception before the half. There was some good, there was some bad, there was some ugly.
Yeah, I think that if the goal coming into the game was to get a clear, definitive answer on yes or no. Yes, he's going to be the backup for week 1 and 2, or no, he is not going to be the backup for week 1 and 2. We still don't have it. I really don't think. We've seen Sean McVay be complimentary of him to a point, say that he's proud of him. We've seen those things, but what he has not said is it's his job and we need to move on from there. So I think to try to figure out what they're going to do is a little bit difficult because I don't think they know what they're going to do at this point. Watching him play on Saturday against the Chargers, I thought that there was a couple of good things, but I thought there were a couple of really bad things as well. And I don't think that whatever level of anxiety that Sean McVay might have had or any level of anxiety that Rams fans might have had with Stetson Bennett being your quarterback, I don't think they've been alleviated. You saw the interception. I'm willing to a little bit of grace on because it was 4th down. You got to try to get it in there. It wasn't that big of a deal to try to do that. It honestly was not the end of the world. But again, it was another interception. The fumble, I think, was a far bigger mistake. It just kind of demonstrated his lack of ball security, his lack of understanding of what's going on around him. And then there were just some really missed throws. There were some throws that could have been intercepted. There were some throws that sailed on him. I still don't know if I see enough of zip on the ball, especially on some of those outs that make you feel really, really good about it. One more to go against Houston, and hopefully we get a little bit more information. But as unsatisfying as it might be, here we are 2 preseason games in with Stetson Bennett, and I still have no idea whether or not he could serviceably play in the NFL. I do know that I'm going to be hitting my knees, crossing my fingers, toes, and everything else I got that Matthew Stafford stays healthy.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, right now he doesn't look like he's ready to be a backup quarterback in the National Football League. And then it's also, you're seeing the effects of missing essentially an entire rookie season and not being able to develop. And I think you're right. On the interception, wasn't backbreaking. I mean, he
Right.
needs to get the ball out quicker in that situation. Not the best play call, in my opinion, there. Xavier Reed was open, but really he's like the third option on that, the third read there. So not terribly concerned about that one, but there were some other plays. I mean, he did have 3 turnover-worthy plays, according to PFF, had some almost interceptions there. The fumble, I agree, you got to protect the football. And I think when you look at just the name Stetson Bennett, and it's very polarizing player as far as amongst Rams fans or not. But let's just say it's not Stetson Bennett. Let's just say it's a backup quarterback. And the first week of preseason, he throws 4 interceptions. Then the second week of preseason, he throws an interception as a fumble. In that situation, the sirens would be going off, right?
Yeah.
With Stetson Bennett, I mean, just because of where he was drafted and kind of the story behind it, the fact that he does pull out these wins in the end, I think that there's just kind of this want to just give him this opportunity. And Sean McVay, he's the most important part of all this. He did say Stetson did a nice job against the Chargers, and I was pleased with the progress. That's what we want to be able to continue to see for us to feel good about that, but it's trending in the right direction. So is the bar low to the point where yesterday, a couple days ago, felt like a success? It feels like it.
Yeah, I think it is. And Sean McVay, obviously is positive, but he's stopping himself, and he's only positive to a point. We're trending in the right direction. I'm proud of Stetson Bennett. We've made some improvements in some areas, but what he has not said is the job is his, right? And I think that's the most important thing. The most important thing is what has not been said, and that is he's going to be the second quarterback when we get to Detroit. He's going to be the second quarterback when you take on the Arizona Cardinals in week 2. He has not said that. I think he probably will be, but I don't think that he's completely closed the door on that, because he would say so. I really do believe that if it were for everybody's sake, for his confidence, for the team's understanding of what's going on, but that really has not happened. If I had to place a bet, I think it's probably going to be him, and they'll roll the dice that Matthew Stafford stays healthy. But I can tell you right now, if there was a situation where Bennett had to come in and play in a regular season game, I would not be feeling great about it. He just does not fill me with a great deal of confidence.
Yeah, I think you're right. I don't think they're going to ditch this and go to dress or win in the third game, or go out there and sign a Ryan Tannehill or someone that could be available, because they realize that no Stafford, no playoffs, no Super Bowl anyway. And if you get to Jimmy Garoppolo week 3, I mean, it just changes the whole trajectory of the season. And I think it's important to note that you didn't draft Stetson Bennett to be a future starter. You didn't develop him to develop. You didn't draft him to be a developmental quarterback with high upside. You drafted him specifically to be a backup quarterback. That was supposed to be his role on this team. And yes, he did look more comfortable than he did in week 1. Yes, he did have some rust. He missed significant time last season, but still, just some of the misplays, the misreads are still definitely a concern. And I think for him, he needs that third game, like you said, to truly evaluate this in its totality.
Yeah, I think so too. And I've said this before, the everydayers probably know where I'm going with this. I don't need you to come in and throw a bunch of touchdown passes. I don't need you to come in and rally the team from 2 touchdowns behind and go and have this miraculous comeback win. And all of a sudden we're talking about, oh my gosh, they got their quarterback. What I need from the backup quarterback, especially in the Bennett situation, because what we're really talking about is quarterback number 3, quarterback number 2 for a couple of weeks, but just don't give the ball to the other team. Literally just don't do that. We've seen Josh Carty has become, a useful kicker to, a reasonable distance. So maybe you try to get into a defense and field goals game. Maybe you can throw the 1 touchdown pass like we saw, but you can't give the other team opportunities. We've seen the Rams defense early. I know we're going to talk about that. Look pretty darn good. But if you just keep giving away that football over and over and over again, ultimately it's going to come back and be a huge problem. He's turned it over 6 times in 2 games. That's just simply way, way, way too many times. I don't need touchdown passes. I don't need game-winning heroics. I need no turnovers. And so far, he hasn't been able to do that.
Yeah, it's a great point. 6 turnovers against not starting caliber
It's
defenses,
nothing.
not advanced schemes coming from these defenses with very little pressure, with a run game as well. So really everything's in his favor to go out there, make some plays. I will say, just kind of watching the receivers, they were doing a fantastic job getting separation throughout the game, but those are all things to strongly consider. But I think the bottom line is we both are in agreement that they're probably just going to roll with him and just pray that Stafford's going to be okay. But we got an update on Matthew Stafford from Sean McVay, and we have some more big takeaways from the Rams preseason win. 2-0 in the preseason. Can't wait to get my T-shirt, man, my hat, man. This is undefeated in the preseason, man. It's awesome. But that's coming up next. It feels great, does it? On Locked On Rams.
Passion, drive, and patience. The formula for winning championships is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and to level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and a whole lot more. So whether you are into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors, they've got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. So keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers.
And we're off and running here on Locked On Rams. Thank you for making Locked On Rams your first listen. Free and available wherever you get your podcast. Locked On Rams, part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Also, a special shout out to those everyday listeners out there watching and listening to every single episode of Locked On Rams. And if you haven't yet, join that 5 days, 5 times a week listeners club too. So you won't miss a thing about your Rams. You can watch on YouTube, you can listen to the pod, and definitely drop your comments down below so we can start reading them on the show. But Travis, here in our second segment, by the way, I want to say too, if you go 3-0 in the preseason, I still consider that a bigger accomplishment than the Lakers in-season tournament. I'm throwing it out there.
I will say that they are equally worthless. I don't know if either one is better than the other.
Rams won't be hanging a banner either. I'll say that.
I'll give the Lakers a little bit of credit because at least those games actually matter with real players. But yeah, I think as far as titles go, they're equally worthless.
It's like the Steve Spagnuolo special, just going undefeated in the preseason, right? I mean, that's what he does. Then I think it was like 10-38 as a head coach. I don't know, but
exactly.
Here in our second segment, though, big horns up to Jordan Whittington.
Yeah.
He's done it again. A late round draft pick that I think is going to be a key contributor. Maybe in year one, maybe he takes over for WR3 for Demarcus Robinson at some point, but for sure next season when he leaves, and with Puka Nacua, with Cooper Kupp getting banged up at times, I think that Jordan Whittington, he's definitely have some opportunities to make impacts this season.
I think you're going to see him. I think you're going to see him be a part of this team. I think he's going to get some opportunities. I don't know if Tutu Atwell is going to be able to hold on to that WR4 spot for a super long time. I know that he is a very specific type of player with the speed that he has and the threat that he can bring to your offense. But like you said, that Whittington just fits into what the Rams do. He just looks like a Rams wide receiver. He's physical. He's able to do a lot of different things. He can kind of move him all over the field. So yeah, I'm with you. This could be another one of those guys that we're talking about in the middle of the season, like you just said, D-Mac, that the Rams have done it again. They found a late round wide receiver that's making an impact. And look, he's done it so far in the preseason without Matthew Stafford, but what does that guy look like if he gets an opportunity with one of the great quarterbacks in the league at the moment, and all of a sudden he's got another weapon that he can use? I really do think that we're going to be talking about him all season long, and he'll be getting a bigger and bigger role the deeper we get into the season.
Absolutely. And he just continues to produce 5 catches for 52 yards during his 2 preseason games, 11 catches for 126 yards on 18 targets. And I think the big question is, like you said, how high can he go on this depth chart? Because Demarcus Robinson, they brought him back for a reason, to be that X, that wide receiver 3 that had built chemistry with Matthew Stafford last season. And all he could do was catch touchdowns for the last few games of the season. But I think with Jordan Whittington, you get that physicality, you get that yak yard, that ability to make yards after the catch. And I think for him, if you can produce early on the season, you can also help keep Demarcus Robinson, who's a veteran at this point, fresh, right? And guys are going to get banged up throughout the season. And we know that Sean McVay loves to use rookies, especially when it comes to receivers. So if he's got it early on, I think it's going to be very difficult to keep him off the field, even if that means getting some WR3 love.
Well, like you said, you're going to need more than 3 guys. This is the NFL, right? You're going to play 3 at once. A lot with the Rams doing the 11 personnel as frequently as they do. You're going to have 3 wide receivers out there. Guys get bumps and bruises. Guys need to catch their breath. Guys need to take a player off here or there. He's going to get opportunities. And like you just said as well, Sean McVay is very comfortable putting guys out there, assuming that they continue to do what they're supposed to do. Be where you're supposed to be. Catch the balls that you're supposed to catch. Don't leave somebody hanging. Don't put the team in jeopardy. And if Whittington can do those sorts of things, he'll continue to play. Again, Demarcus Robinson, obviously a little bit of an older player, so maybe there's some opportunities there. But I think the real opportunity is that 4th guy. Maybe make some plays here and there on special teams. I know that Tutu is kind of locked into that role right now. Again, we'll see how it goes, but I'm excited to see Whittington play with Matthew Stafford, with the rest of the starters, and just kind of be the last option, because I think that's a pretty darn good last option to have.
For sure. And I think that what he brings is that closer type of receiver. Second half, when teams are starting to wear down, you get his strength and physicality just to go out there and punish secondaries. And I think, too, his ability to block. And we know that the emphasis is on the running game this season.
Always.
So definitely a perfect fit for this Rams team. And look, it's not going to be a bad thing to have a fresher Demarcus Robinson potentially if Whittington gets some snaps in here. And he just feels like this guy that, he's only playing in this second preseason game because of how their wide receiver depth look at this point. And thankfully for Stetson Bennett, he had Whittington as an option to help his case more too. So big Whit guy. We had a commenter, I was trying to find it, who had a really good nickname, because we were talking about moderately sized Whit, mid-Whit. So I'll find his nickname, but it's just not as big as Andrew Whitworth Whit, but still love Whit out of Texas. And then we talked a little about it just a couple minutes ago, Omar Speights. Speights is certainly making a very, very strong case to make this 53-man roster. I think what really stood out to me was the play on special teams. We just blew a guy up. Second week in a row, you had a guy that go out there and blow the play up with his hard-hitting ability, his tackling ability. And let's be honest, the Rams don't have a ton of guys that can do that. They can punish guys, especially in the special teams, especially if you saw, look, last year, he had 20% return rate on the kickoff returns. It's already at over 80%. You need guys like Omar Speights to have an impact. And if you throw him out of that practice squad, guarantee you there are teams right now around the league that are already probably going to look to poach him. So I think you almost have to keep him on that 53-man roster or he's going to get poached.
He did the thing that I think every guy that's kind of on that cusp of making the team, maybe not making the team, needs to do. He made everybody go, "Hey, who is that?" Or, "Ooh, what? Wow!" Like just those plays that. Look, it's the preseason. I think everybody knows how I feel about the preseason. I think everybody knows how Sean McVay feels about the preseason. That there are very few times where you're looking at someone and say, "Hey, who is that? Well, who made that play? Who made that big hit?" And Speights did it 2 weeks in a row where he's made you turn your head and say, okay, who is the guy that hit that shot? That's really good news for him. I think that he's really close. I think you're right about maybe somebody grabbing him in the event that he was placed on the practice squad. But anybody that can bring it like that is a guy that you want. And especially in the preseason, like you're talking about, there's going to be returns. I think. I'm still a little curious. We saw a little bit more return action this weekend, but I still don't know if we won't see guys just say, you know what, I'm going to kick the ball off through the back of the end zone. We'll start at the 30. We'll see. I think once we see a play or two that's busted for a big one, guys are going to take that off the board and just kick it out of the back. But in the event that there are some kickoff returns early, Spates on the coverage team is a very good thing.
For sure. And absolutely agree with you. We have to wait to see it in the regular season, but it does pass the I'm going to the kitchen to refill the nachos test.
Yeah.
Right. Because you're not doing that. You want to see how it unfolds. And the bottom line is if you're active on special teams, which Omar Spates is, you definitely increase your chances.
No
I
doubt.
think the big question is, hey, he's a UDFA. I mean, you get him out of LSU. He was at Oregon State, transferred to LSU. And you asked me a couple weeks ago if the Rams are going to take 4 or 5 linebackers. I'm probably going to say no. But if you, like I said, if you throw them on that practice squad, I think that it's a big risk. And I think they have found someone in Spates with that physicality that can absolutely help this team. And then Xavier Smith. So Xavier Smith, talk about another guy that can have an impact on special teams. That, I think, is where he's going to hang his hat with his ability to make this roster. And almost looks like, too, he may have passed Tyler Johnson on that wide receiver depth chart.
Yeah, I think it's down to those two, right? I think it comes down to which of those. I don't think you can keep both. I think it's one or the other. And we saw, Smith make some plays. We saw him have that kind of what we just talked about with Spates a second ago. Like, wait, who was that? What was that play? How did that go? That's kind of what you're looking at. I think that these are the last couple of roster spots that are available. Are the two guys that we've just talked about. There were maybe the 3 guys, throw Tyler Johnson in there as well. This is a team that, we could have probably told you who's going to make the team a month ago and gotten 49 or 50 of the 53 guys that are going to ultimately make that team. And this is where we are. These are the last few spots. And this is what's so much fun about the NFL. This isn't college football. If you make the team, you play. Nobody doesn't play. Right? Everybody plays just about every single week. So if you make that team, you're going to get some action.
For sure. And I think when you saw his performance, he had that really, really nice grab along the sideline, but also 2 punt returns for 50 yards. So even if he's not a part of this wide receiver rotation mix, he's not getting opportunities, which most likely he won't, barring injury, the fact that you can use him on special teams, that only increases his odds. And not a ton of burners on this team, sub 4.4 speed. And I was almost looking at this game like, man, is this what they want out of Tutu Atwell with Xavier Smith, what he has the potential to bring? Maybe he could be that guy potentially. So that definitely would make up for it. But coming up next, we got some more big takeaways. And then Travis's favorite, we're going to talk the kicking game, special teams. Joshua Carty misses one. Is it a concern? That's coming up next on Locked On Rams.
All right, you've heard us talk a lot about FanDuel, right? That's America's #1 sportsbook. You knew that already, but we have a little something different for you right now, because right now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and you're going to get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Yeah, you heard me right? 3 weeks of free NFL Sunday Ticket. If you place a $5 bet with a YouTube TV base plan, you'll be able to watch every regular season Sunday afternoon out-of-market game, which is, if you've never had the opportunity, it's awesome. You get to see everything that you need to see. All you need is a Google account and a current form of payment, and you can cancel the course at any time. So just visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to download America's #1 sportsbook and go take a look at those NL West odds, right? Where they are getting tighter and tighter and tighter. And of course, you can pick up 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV.
And welcome back to Locked On Rams. Thank you for making Locked On Rams your first listen every single weekday. Free and available wherever you get your podcasts. Locked On Rams, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. All right, Trav, so here in our third segment, talk a little Joshua Carty. And Joshua Carty has been really, really good throughout the joint practices, making most of his kicks. He did miss a 52-yarder. And look, we haven't asked for a guy to make 50-plus yard kicks, but he's gone 8 for 15 for 50-plus at Stanford. We just want him to make those routine kicks, the under 50 ones. But still, what do you think of his outing?
Exactly what you just said. I've been saying this going all the way back to last season with Maher and Haversick. Let's make everything under 50, and we're good. And if you're going to make a few outside of 50, but you're going to miss it, I can live with it. I don't have to have a guy that's necessarily, Greg the Leg from a few years ago who, inside of 60, you feel pretty good about it. Inside 50, make your kicks. He had 2 kicks inside of 50. He made them both. He had a PAT. He made it. We're good. I absolutely no red flags to me. Does he have the world's biggest leg? No. Does he need to? Absolutely not. And even the miss, and it was, it was a miss, clearly. It was hit correctly. It had the sound. It just wasn't online. And I think that's what we're talking about when it comes to Joshua Carty is the operation is working smoothly. The snap is good. The hold is good. The kick, the sound, the thump, all those things that you're looking for, they were all good. He still hasn't missed one inside of 50 yards. He still hasn't missed a PAT. Still very, very high on him, even if he did miss a 52-yarder. I'm not going to change my tune now. You'd like him to make a 52-yarder, but make the stuff under 50. I feel really good about it.
Yeah, until he starts shanking 42-yard field goals,
Right.
That's when I'm going to be concerned. But right now, I feel good. You mentioned Greg Zuerlein, 74.3%. That was his field goal make rate his rookie season. So rookies, it's a little bit of a learning curve, but I still like what I've seen from Carty. He was the best kicker in the draft. They picked him. They're going to develop him a little bit, but I think they feel really good about him. But real quickly before you head out of here, on Stafford, Sean McVay said that he's not concerned about the hamstring. He said he can throw and do some of those things. As far as just some of the movement, he's feeling good. We haven't decided that yet on him practicing this week. He said the arrow is pointing up and he's feeling good as it relates to the hamstring tightness last week. So still going to get a couple of weeks to prepare for Detroit, even if he does miss this week. But McVay's not concerned. I'm always concerned about everything, but where are you at?
I think tomorrow on Locked On Rams, we're going to have a really interesting conversation because if he doesn't practice today, if he doesn't practice this week, as we get deeper into the week, Sean McVay can tell me he's not concerned, that everything's fine, that he's a veteran quarterback and he knows the offense. And that's all true. This will be basically going into a full week of him not taking live reps. That's got to mean something. If everything were fine, he would be, this goes back to a couple of years ago, and they're saying that, he didn't throw during the preseason. Everything's fine, everything's fine, everything's fine. Well, everything wasn't fine. I need to see him play. I need not play in an exhibition game, but play with his teammates, work out with his teammates, practice with his teammates, go ones against ones and see what that looks like. They got some joint work with the Texans coming up this week, so I think that's pretty interesting. If he doesn't practice, is it a 10 out of 10? No. But is it a 0 out of 10? Absolutely not either.
Absolutely. I mean, he is our season. Bottom line,
it's
full
everything.
stop, like you always say. And I'm not driving this car with the check engine light on at all. I'm taking him right to the shop, want to get it checked out, make sure everything under the hood is just fine. And Sean McVay talked about taking the safer side. Well, yeah, take the safer side with Matthew Stafford, because hamstrings, especially for older dudes, even if they feel like nothing, all of a sudden they can become something, and you just want to avoid that at all costs.
And they linger. And they don't, that's the other part with the hamstrings is, like you said, until they're 100%, you never really know exactly what it is that you're going to get. And when they do get hurt, they tend to linger. And like you mentioned, with older players, the older you get, the longer things linger. What might have hurt for a day or two in your 20s hurts for, a week or two in your 30s. So we'll see. Until it's not an issue, it's something to watch. And right now, it's definitely something to watch.
100%. But let's hope he's good. And then if he practices, that lets us know that he's 100% good, because I know they're not going to risk anything with Matthew Stafford. That's going to do it for this episode of Locked On Rams. My name is Doug McCain. You can follow me on X and Instagram at DMac_LA. And you can follow the People's Champ, Mr. Travis Rogers, at Travis Rogers. And until next time, whose house? It's Locked On Rams house.